Hello, my amazing souls. Welcome back to On the Couch with Umkonta Zulu, otherwise known as Heaven's Mountain. Today I need you to be strong for this one because I'd like us to talk about rape as well as, molestation from young age right up to childhood. It might appear like a weird topic, and I hope that if this has reached you, I trust that it will heal you. I think I'm speaking to someone who, at a young age, we don't talk about these things, guys, but at some point, as we grow up as adults, they tend to follow us, they tend to haunt us, and then we struggle to figure out ways on how to heal those wounds. So I'm talking to someone who struggled when they were younger like me. I had scenarios where my male cousins were touching me inappropriately. I remember this one time, we shared a bed, and it was at night, and it was the first time visiting my grandmother's house at some point, and we were sleeping, cross feet, and all of a sudden, I feel a touch on my thighs, and pulling my panty down, and I freaked out. And when I freaked out, I didn't know whether to jump or not, but when I felt the arm happening again, that was the first time where I then just stood up and went to go sleep with my grandmother. And I've always been a child that slept with their grandmother. And I'm talking to people like that, people who went to the store accompanied by trusted family figures or relatives or family friends, and then you get to the store and they're touching you inappropriately. I remember I had one uncle who used to always visit us at home. And then, they'd make him some tea. He was really old, but he would always call me up and want to hug me, and then, fix my dress, and then put me on top of his lap, and then, touch my thighs. I'm talking about uncomfortable situations like those. So I think at some point in life, in as much as we can go through life and pretend like we are not in pain, as if we are not hurt and all is well, the reality of the matter is, it's not all the time when things are well. Some of these things are haunting us even now. It impacts our current relationships into adulthood. It impacts how we trust people we don't know, especially when these traumas are then triggered by very close people, like our parents, like our uncles, like our cousin brothers, our cousin sisters, our aunts, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, because you might think that, rape and molestation is, gender based, it's a female thing, but in reality, no. Men get, raped and molested as well. So how do we heal from that? The very first thing that's very important for, you to know right now is that it was never your fault. It was never your fault. I'm learning through therapy. I've gone through initiation school, having recovered from my going through that healing journey, and I'm learning and discovering that, there are still a lot of things that we need to heal from. We can take these internal pains, and if we don't heal them, they end up becoming external. If internal, it's not, sickness, you struggle to express yourself, so you always have, chest related issues, because that's your throat chakra. That's where you are able to express yourself, your chest and your gut instinct. You always feel like you have something to say, but you don't feel like, you're in fear. What if I'm judged? What if they think I'm lying? What if what I'm saying is not true? What if I'm making this stuff up? What if I'm just wanting attention? But other things are really painful in life. So I'm waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, as you can hear, it's raining. And these are some of the things that my spiritual guides want me to speak to. So I hope this heals you. Firstly, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. All the people that hurt us have one thing in common. they don't know the impacts that they cause. They might think that, no, it was just a touch, I was just joking, no, I was just making a joke, saying that, your clothes stink, or your lunchbox stinks. I've experienced scenarios where, a mom of a kid was telling me that the kid is traumatizing a child at school because they keep saying that their lunchbox stinks. But when you're really asking why the child is saying that, to him it's innocent, that, if I like someone, I need to play, with them. But that's not how it's interpreted, and it's very minor. And from that level, we can heal and fix the misinterpretation from a young age. But at this age, there are personal attacks that, are imposed, that we feel are imposed when they are intentional or unintentional. So start reflecting upon that trauma. Start understanding that all the things that you went through when you were young were completely not your fault. There were things that were inherited. There were things that people thought they were doing the right thing or not doing the right thing, or thinking that you are young, you can't understand. We have kids nowadays that are able to express themselves very healthily, but there's another aspect of very traumatized kids that can't express themselves, and you can't read, the signs. Or even traumatized parents, if you don't heal the trauma, it transfers into a little bit of dis-ease, a little bit of unhealthy coping mechanisms, like alcoholism, like addiction to nicotine. Like it can escalate. Addiction to food, addiction to, it's a lot of things. These addictions, you think a person is addicted to alcohol. There's a person that's addicted to shopping. There's a person that's addicted, to gambling. There's a person that's addicted to smoking. There's a person that's addicted to eating cheese. There's a person that's addicted to pain, to cutting themselves. There are different types of addiction, guys. There's someone that's addicted to, let me get fit. I don't even wanna, see myself get unhealthy again. There's a healthy way of doing things, but then there's something that can even trigger that. Maybe, there was a health scare, and it made a person wanna exercise. So now they're addicted to that because there's a fear that if they don't exercise, you see, it's such a big spectrum. And I wanna talk about these things. I have lovely people that I'm following. Most recent, Mel Robbins, love her to bits. Andre Dukumu, I can go on and on. There's Mary Diamond, there's Mind Valley, there's there's a spectrum of healing mechanisms, to therapies, to hypnosis. And I want to talk about these things because they've really changed my life. And I don't want to sit by the corner and, find myself having to come across people in life that, are not aware that half of the stuff that are carrying as a burden are things that they are not meant to carry. And half of those stuffs were not things that were healthy for them. But there are no healthy mechanisms in our society to take time to speak about those things. So I'm really trusting myself, more importantly my spiritual guides, to say, if this message touches anyone, I hope you know that you're not alone. We are going through a lot. Even in fear, we do need to speak things out and start healing, so that we start building healthy relationships, being able to see the true love that people actually have to share with us. Not always labeling everyone as always wanting to attack us. Love means I need to be abused. Love means, so many conditions. You can just be yourself, and a person can just love you for exactly who you are, because you are amazing, you are unbelievable. So if this touched you and it made a big difference to you, I'm so glad. I love you so much, and I hope that you show me some love so I could continue being motivated to share this wisdom and knowledge, to say you are not alone, you are loved, you were born, you are a gift from the heavens, and I hope that you start treating yourself like that. Love you always. Bye-bye.